Welcome to a special edition. I don't know. We've got Morning Joe and the Pro. This is a horse racing podcast. I don't know what we should call it. Should we call it The Horse in the Horse's Ass? I don't know. Nobody. That's the thing. Nobody would know. So we'll go from there. We'll figure out a name for this. We're doing a special edition Preakness podcast. It's me and my good friend SIG Las Vegas. You can follow him on Twitter, SIG Las Vegas. And welcome to the show, my man. You were in town Vegas for the Kentucky Derby. We had fun at South Point. Won't have that same fun with you in presence for the Preakness, but rumor has it that there will be a SIG sighting on the Belmont, even though there'll be no Triple Crown this year.
SIG will be in Las Vegas for the Belmont. Look forward to seeing you again.
All right, good stuff. And guys, definitely give SIG a follow on Twitter. He puts up free stuff all the time. You can check it out. Certain tracks he likes to concentrate on. I know he's a guy that likes Gulfstream. He loves Keeneland. What are some of the other tracks you like to focus in on?
Currently, this time of year, Belmont's going to be the course. Then we'll move to Saratoga. May touch on a little Del Mar, and then back to Keeneland in the fall. But yeah, definitely Gulfstream over the winter. All
right, we definitely got to get you out here, and me and you got to make a trip to Del Mar to do the summer stuff at Del Mar. Nothing like opening day at Del Mar. But let's get to what is happening this week. It is the Preakness. We had all of that controversy with the Kentucky Derby. You were there. I told you a few minutes in, he's coming down. I think the call was correct. But what that gives us now is a Preakness that doesn't have the first place finisher, doesn't have the second place finisher, and doesn't have the third place finisher of the Kentucky Derby. And this has been a race, SIG, that usually runs pretty much true to form. This is the one race. This will be the 144th Preakness. 51% of the Preaknesses have been won by the closing favorite, post-time favorite. That's an unheard of percentage in horse racing. You just don't win at that percentage. Generally, horse racing, it's more in the percentages of 35 to 38% for favorites, betting favorites winning. That's probably because we generally see the Kentucky Derby winner in this field and a couple other good horses from the Derby. That's not the case this year. It's wide open. All the best horses from the Derby are bypassing it. Do you think that makes for a bad Preakness or makes for a very good betting Preakness?
I think it makes definitely for a better betting Preakness than most years. As you said, usually the Kentucky Derby favorite is going to be your Preakness favorite. And in most cases, we see a win there. So going into this season, this race, I think it's going to be a little more wide open. I mean, Improbable did look a little lethargic in the Derby, whether that was the big field or the sloppy track, I don't know. But more than likely, that's going to be your betting favorite coming post time on Saturday.
Yeah. I see that picture over your shoulder there up in the corner, and I think I recognize that picture.
Your horse.
Good stuff, SIG. Hey, let's start with what is most likely. He is the morning line favorite and looks to, that he will be the favorite. But I don't think he's going to be odds-on favorite in this race, and it's improbable. And when we look at his race in the Derby, that was my horse, full disclosure. I was on Improbable. That was my horse to win the race. And I couldn't have drawn up a better trip than he got. I can't make an excuse for him with the trip. If we want to take a reach and say, hey, what happened to Improbable in the Derby? We could possibly say he didn't like the mud. And I know everybody will be quick to point out, well, did you look at the Arkansas Derby? He raced second to Omaha Beach in the mud. He did, but the difference in that race is he got an outside trip. He was never down inside, and the field was a little more spread out. So he didn't have all of the mud being thrown in his face the way it was in the Kentucky Derby. He was sitting 20-horse field. They were tightly bunched. He was on, that second tier of horses. He had horses in front of him, horses to the left and right of him. So he had mud thrown in his face the entire race. If we want to reach for an excuse, that's the only excuse I can make for him, because the trip he got was absolutely perfect, and he should have had more pace in the stretch, and he didn't. Do you see him rebounding from that on a dry track Saturday, or are you not impressed with him, Improbable?
No, I was impressed with Improbable last year when he won his first 3 races, finished second in both his races this year to quality horses. I see him on a dry track as the favorite, and he will be the betting time favorite come post time on Saturday here.
Looking at the other horse out of the Derby before we start talking about all the new shooters, War of Will, definitely the horse that got all of the attention of everything that happened last week. He's the horse that got interfered with by Maximum Security and then ended up resulting in bumping into Long Range Toddy. And the other horse in this that people are not mentioning but got the worst of all of it was Bodie Express. Bodie Express was in between War of Will and Long Range Toddy, and when those two horses collided, Bodie Express was right in the middle of those two trying to make a move, and he just got absolutely pinched off, and then the horse, basically quit at that point. War of Will, do you believe if he gets out clean, do you think he would have challenged Maximum Security, or do you think he would have flattened out in the stretch?
That's the $1 million question, and actually that's something I had written down here in my notes is we'll never know what would have happened if the interference in the stretch didn't occur. War of Will was coming with speed and looked like he had a chance to overtake Maximum Security before the interference occurred.
Yeah, I agree that I think that if he gets through clean without that, he's no worse than second off of the trip in what he looked like he had when he was trying to bust through that hole. But as you said, we will never know. Morning line, 4-1. Do you think he's going to be the buzz horse that's going to get some of the wise guy attention because of what happened in the last race? Or do you think that 4-1's where he should be?
I think 4-1's actually a little bit low based on, as I said, the Derby performance was impressive up until the interference occurred, and he was one of the horses I had in my top 4 horses that day. But he started out his career as a turf horse, moved to the dirt, has more success as a dirt horse, and appears to be in a class with these other Derby horses. The one thing the Derby horses have going for them is they've actually run a race against some tough competition here in the last 2 weeks. The new shooters coming in, a lot of them are coming from races that they haven't faced these class of horses yet.
Well, there is and there isn't. And let's start with, let's just move down post position-wise. The number 2 horse, Bourbon War. Now, this is an interesting horse on several points for me. And I'm going to start with one. He's only got 5 lifetime starts. You've heard me talk so much in racing of how much a horse can jump from, his 3rd start to his 4th start to his 5th start. They have not reached their peak yet. And you look at Bourbon War, he's coming out of that Florida Derby race. And if you remember the Florida Derby, we all scoffed at that race because of the slow fractions. Maximum Security, stole that race was what we thought. And you look at it, and basically he did. But now coming back from that race, we saw how they ran in the Derby. And I'm just getting a ton of text coming through my computer if you're hearing that dinging. Now, it wasn't the cash register going through. Looking at it, Maximum Security comes back, runs big in the Derby. Code of Honor comes back, runs big in the Derby, finished 3rd in the Florida Derby. We talked about Bodie Express, was in position to make some noise in the Derby, but got interfered with. So based off of those 3 horses racing as well as they did off of the Florida Derby, doesn't it make sense that Bourbon War, who finished 4th in that race and only missed the Derby by a few points, if he would have finished 2nd in the Florida Derby or better, he is in the Kentucky Derby. But that cost him getting in. Do you think he can run a big race here in the Preakness on Saturday?
He's actually the most interesting horse to me in this race. He's a deep closer with a jockey in Irad Ortiz that loves to make one big run. has a perfect setup for him with speed on the front. I expect Warriors Charge to go out to the lead. And I also expect, his name's escaping me right now, Market King to make a little run at the beginning, as well as Always Mining. So I expect them to go out at a fast, early pace, which is perfect for a horse like Bourbon War to come in, close into it late.
Yeah, and let's not forget Bodie Express is another horse that's going to go forward. He won't be on the lead. He's a horse that likes to stalk behind somebody, but as we saw in the Florida Derby, he can follow forever as he followed Maximum Security all the way around. I agree with you on Bourbon War. This is a horse that I definitely like a lot on Saturday. I think his upside is huge. I think he will get the fractions, as you said, he needs. And to add one more point, the knock on Bourbon War has been he's a deep closer. I think he's going to be closer to the pace than he's been in the other races. And the reason I think that is I'm basing it off the equipment change. They're putting blinkers on for the first time. Now, I can tell you, Glenn, or Sig, from my stuff that you knew I'd do that at least once, that when my trainer would tell me that he's putting, my trainer's name was Glenn, when my trainer would put blinkers on a horse, it was for one of two reasons. Either the horse wasn't paying attention and they wanted to get him focused and on the bit, or they wanted him to move off the gate, be forwardly placed, try to, be aggressive, fire the horse up. So with that, either one of those is going to improve where he's at. If he's going to be more focused and into the race, concentrating earlier, that's going to be maybe that move starts earlier. If that is used to get him fired up at the gate, he's not going to be sitting next to last in this race coming from, way out of the clouds. Another interesting part to Bourbon War that I think is going to ensure the pace is, let's talk about the number 3 horse, Warriors Charge. And this is the horse you said is going to be on the front end. I agree with you. This is a speed horse. I think he's going to be in there. Do we want to use the old conspiracy theory here? Now, the owners did pay the supplemental fee to put him in this race. They didn't make the sustaining payments. He wasn't eligible for the race. So to get into it, they had to pay a $150,000 supplemental fee. Now, the question is, did they pay that fee because they think this horse has a legitimate shot in this race? Or does it happen to be the fact that the trainer of this horse, Brad Cox, also has another very interesting horse in this race, in the horse named Owen Dale, who is, like Bourbon War, a closer. And if you're a closer, Sig, what do you need to happen on the front end?
You need a very fast pace, and Warrior Charge is what we like to call a rabbit, in my opinion.
So if he's in there for rabbit purposes, that definitely helps Owen Dale, the other part of the stablemate there. And if they think he has a chance, this is a horse that, if nobody else wants to go with him, we saw what happened in the Florida Derby when you leave a horse alone on the lead. He might be able to carry these horses into deep stretch. And Pimlico is a racetrack that is known for speed. We talk about it, track biases and that. Generally, the Preakness is won by a horse on the front end or somebody sitting just off of it. Now, not saying closers don't have a shot in the race, but generally speaking, we've seen form hold more here. And again, that goes back to the fact that you have the good horses coming from the Derby. And the horse that won the Derby a lot of times is the horse that ends up being on the front end and people don't want to challenge him and he gets a better trip. So we'll see what happens with Warriors Charge, but definitely a rabbit. Do you think he has a legitimate shot in here, or are you going the rabbit route?
I really think he's a rabbit in here. If you look, he's only had 5 career starts, none of them higher than an optional claimer. He finally broke his maiden in his 4th race of his career here, and I see no reason why. Yes, he ran a fast number last race, but that was at Laurel. I'm sorry, I apologize. That was at Oaklawn, and that wasn't against much.
Right. And you look, lifetime earnings, the horse has $138,000. it's not like they're totally free rolling in here. I mean, they're putting all of the earnings they got on him just to supplement him into this particular race. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but even if he wins the race, they're only making about 5-1 on their $150,000 entry fee.
Yeah, but I'll take 5-1 on 150,000. But I think he's up against it to win this race. But I definitely think he's going to help Owen Dale, and if he's going to help Owen Dale, that also helps Bourbon War, which is a horse I'm high on. And obviously, when we get to Owen Dale, you'll find out I'm high on him as well. Improbable, we already talked about him. What happened in the Derby. He's going to get some more money based on the fact that it's Mike Smith teaming up with Bob Baffert. They're making a jockey change here. Now, we always talk about jockey changes and say, oh, hey, this is a huge, jockey change. We said on Improbable, and I was one of them, I said, Drayden Van Dyke had been riding this horse exclusively, and then they put, Irad Ortiz on, and that was a big jockey change. And the horse responded with, a really good second against Omaha Beach with the first time with Ortiz on, and then the last race, again, just came up flat. That's not this big of a jump from Ortiz to Mike Smith. Mike Smith's a good jockey, but I wouldn't put him head and shoulders over Ortiz. Mike Smith's at the backside of the career. Ortiz is still, a big player, more so on the East Coast than the West Coast, but this is not that big of an edge. It definitely, Mike Smith gets along with the horses. He has a good rapport with Bob Baffert, but this isn't as big as going from Van Dyke to Ortiz, going from Ortiz to Smith. How would you feel?
The combination of Baffert and Mike Smith have won a lot of big races over the years, and including recently last year with Justify. Baffert did make comments following the Derby that he was not happy with the ride that Irad gave to Improbable during the Derby. But as we previously discussed in this podcast, is the ride was basically just a ride along. He trailed the entire Derby in the same spot. He came out fifth, stayed fifth the whole way, never gained any ground, never lost any ground. But unlike Irad usually makes a late run, maybe it was the course, maybe it was the horse. I don't know.
And maybe it was the mud. We shall see. Let's go to the horse we've been teasing about. Number 5, Owen Dale, trained by Brad Cox. The Lexington, I'll let you talk about that race. Big race for him in the Lexington, and that was the final prep race where horses were trying to sneak into the Derby. He won that race, but still came up a little short on getting in. What do you see about Owen Dale in this race?
Well, Owen Dale is an interesting horse because if you look at his past performances, he hasn't done a whole lot. But if you go back and you look at the Lexington, number one, you had a jockey change, a big jockey change to Florent Giroux. You also, if you watch that race, which I would suggest going back and watch that race on replay, he started a big sweeping move at the top of the second turn, and that horse just came flying. I mean, nobody had a shot at catching that horse. As long as he got around the corner, I would say, okay, got to the top of the stretch and just took off. But he made a move that I had not seen in a while with a horse.
Yeah, that was a move. We did videos earlier today in studio with Kelly, and no offense, Sig, if I get to sit next to Kelly and do videos and I can understand a little bit, why people like to tune into the videos, but hey, we're here about the information, not the looks here.
No offense taken.
Okay. But I said the move was absolutely scary good and did it all through the turn and did it on the outside. So he's traveling more distance than the horses on the rail. And he literally went by these horses. It looked like in the turn when he was swooping them, like they were standing still. It was an impressive move. And a lot of times when a horse makes a move like that, and then as they got to the top of the light, he was on top and there was nobody in front of him. A lot of times horses need something to point at, have a horse. Sometimes you don't want your horse to clear too early because then, sometimes they ease up a little bit and think the race is over. There's nobody left to pass. This horse went on, and the jockey change also resulted in a career best buyer figure for Owen Dale. So this is a horse that's definitely heading in the right direction off of that race. Definitely a fresh horse, didn't race in the Derby, and coming into here I think is a big, big factor. And again, if we get those fractions that we're anticipating, it's going to set up for some closers. And I think Bourbon War and Owen Dale are the two best closers here. The next horse, I don't like this horse at all. I don't know where you're at, but Market King, I just don't see how this horse can be in here. They raced him in the Bluegrass. He raced horrible. He raced in the Rebel. He did finish third, but it was a well-beaten third. He faded in the stretch. Granted, it was against Omaha Beach and Game Winner, but it wasn't like he finished a good third against them. I mean, he got beat 8 1/4 lengths in that race and was going backwards. Do you give this horse any shot in here?
Marco, my notes say, not wasting any time here, toss him. And just to know in that Rebel performance, that was the split Rebel field. They ran 2 different fields that day for the Rebel. So he finished third in the one flight, but there were 2 flights of horses. You put all those horses together, he's not finishing third in that group.
I gotcha. But he did finish third to 2 of the best horses, though, that
true.
day. We will give him that. So he's got that much. I'm going to give you a trivia question here on the next horse. Always Mining. This is a horse that has won 6 races in a row. He's raced basically his entire career on the Maryland circuit. He did race a couple races in Kentucky, once at Keeneland and twice at Churchill Downs. And then since then, it's been all Laurel racing. But he's put together a 6-race winning streak. Does this horse have a shot? He's a Maryland bred. When was the last time a Maryland bred, and you would think there'd be a lot of Maryland breds that would show up for this race because it's in the home state. What was the last time a Maryland bred won the Preakness?
I cannot give you the answer to that question, Marco.
Well, that is why I am here. And I will tell you, in this particular year, I was skinny and had hair. That's going to tell you how far back we're going.
I have a guess.
What's the guess?
1776.
Okay, not that far back. 1983. 1983, last time a Maryland bred won the Preakness. It's a nice story for the horse. He won the Federico Stakes. That's not the caliber of horses he's going to face today. Can he get a shot on the tail end of a try or a super? Possibly. But again, he's still going to need another big jump on the buyer figures. You look at his buyer figures. The last 2, he did get a 96, 2 back, and then a 92. But everything before that is in the 80s. And, it's going to take a, close to a triple-digit number to win this race this week. I just don't know that he can get there. I'm looking elsewhere. He has tactical speed, could be racing, off the flight. I know if you look at his lines, you see nothing but, him on the lead, after they get past the quarter. But that was against different competition. He's not going to be able to go to the top here and decide the race. So I'm not looking at him, but I'm not going to say that I might not have him on the 3rd slot, on a couple tickets.
Right, I have him in my trifectas and supers.
All right. How about number 8, Signalman? What are your thoughts with him?
The thing I see about this horse is he likes to hit the board. 7 career races, he's been on the board 6 times. I just don't think that he has the speed to keep up with this field. I am putting him on the bottom of my tickets again, tries and supers. His trainer, Kenny McPeak, is very good at spotting his horses. If you see a McPeak horse in a race, there's usually a good reason why that horse is in the race. I'm seeing McPeak on this horse. There's a reason he put him in here.
What I will say for him, if the only thing that I can give him a shot, and this is a horse, again, I just don't think he has the kick. He's going to be coming from behind. I don't think he has the same closing kick as an Owen Dale or a Bourbon War. I will give him this much. He has raced the circuit. He's raced the good races. He raced in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, finished third last year. Raced in the Kentucky race in November. Win that race. Come back and debuted in the Fountain of Youth. Did not race well in the Fountain of Youth. They came back in the Bluegrass. He finished third, but it was a race that, the Vekoma and both Win were able to run him down. Vekoma blew by him. Win caught him late at the wire. His buyers have improved some. He's in the upper 80s in 2 of the last 4, but it's still a big jump for him to get to this one. But he only has 2 starts this season. And one of the trainer things that people like, an angle, is third start off a layoff is generally the best start. And that is what Signalman would have in this race. I still think he's up against it. I'm not going to have him on my tickets. If you think he can, tell me why I should put him there.
Like you said, the third start off the layoff angle is the one reason I'm looking at it, and I like the McPeak angle where he likes to just spot his horses, and I just have a feeling he's the kind of horse that could blow up the totes.
All right. Number 9, Bodie Express. We've talked about him. This is the horse that really had a ton of trouble. This is a maiden yet, Sig. And a lot of people got to ask, me as a horse owner, why are you putting a maiden in a Triple Crown race? Well, I can get it somewhat for the Kentucky Derby. As owners, we all dream about racing in certain big races and everything. Kentucky Derby, obviously, for thoroughbred racing is the ultimate race. That's the race everybody wants to race in and win. And sometimes owners, we have, pig-headed a little bit. We want to have that glory of, hey, I got a horse in the Derby. Maybe this horse really doesn't have a legitimate shot, but I did have enough points to qualify, so I'm going to take my shot. I want to race in the Derby and go through all the pomp and circumstance that surrounds it. That's all fine and dandy. He did that. But then to come back into Preakness 2 weeks later and race when you're still a maiden and you didn't get any money in the Derby, why are you doing it? It's not now just, to make you feel all warm and fuzzy to have a horse in a Triple Crown. You already did that. That tells me that not only the owner and the trainer do believe this horse is better than his maiden status, that they're putting him in here. He won a big race against Maximum Security, finishing second to him. Given the light of how well those horses did in the Derby that came out of the Florida Derby, we got to give that race a lot more credit now. If he gets a clean trip, he's going to leave from the outside post, the 9-hole. He's got good tactical speed. He's not a horse that wants to be on the lead. He wants to be one of those tracking horses right near the front. And that is a style that is very good for this race. Do you think he has a shot of staying alive through the stretch and making the ticket?
Well, before I answer that question, Mark, I have a trivia question for you.
Uh-oh. When
is the last time a maiden won the Preakness?
Oh, you're going to stump me on that one. And I'm going to say it's got to be a while, because I can't even remember a maiden being in here recently. Tell me when.
You might have been at the race. It was 1888.
Oh, gee. Okay.
Were you there that day?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Gil's got everybody telling these jokes. I was on VEASAN this morning, and even Ron Flatter took an old joke at me with all of the Preaknesses. So, yeah, in the Derbies, that joke just never gets old.
Well, to answer your question, I don't have Bodie Express on my tickets here at all. I didn't like him in the Derby. I don't like him here. The only thing that scares me about him is there is a huge jock upgrade this time.
Yes,
John Velasquez has chose to ride Bodie Express in this race, and in the bottom of my stomach, that always scares me a little bit.
Yeah, this horse definitely has a license to step up in this one, and this is another one of those horses. He's a maiden. He's only got 6 lifetime starts sake, he's got a license to have a big improvement. I am going to have him on the tickets on the bottom side. I don't think he can win this race, but I think that he can, with his style, he will have the jump on the closers if he has anything left in the tank when the front end starts to come back in this race. So he'll be the first one. The next horse, I'm going to tell you the post position, I'm going to tell you the name of the horse, and I'm going to tell you the morning line odds. And then I have nothing else to say about this horse because I think that he's just Del Romans generally doesn't do something like this. This horse has no shot in my opinion, and that's number 10, Everfast. 50-1. The track handicapper doesn't think he has a shot either. This is a horse, his highest buyer figure is 4 back at 83. His last 3, 65, 79, and 74. That's going to get, if he runs to that same number, he's going to get beat by 20 lengths in this race.
I agree completely. He was a very late entry to the Preakness, and I see no logical reason that he's entered here. The only thing I can think is that Romans is thinking that he might run back to that Holy Bull form, which was his best race, but I don't think that's a fast enough race to win here.
No, absolutely not. And the only other thing you can say, he was in the Florida Derby. We know how good those horses in the Florida Derby did. Yeah, well, he finished 9th. He got beat 15 lengths in that race, so I'm not worried about that. Number 11, Laughing Fox. This is a horse that's going to be coming. This is most likely the horse coming from dead last. He's going to have the 11 post position, has no gate speed at all. I just don't think he has the closing kick. His buyers are going in the right direction. Last 3, if you want to look at form cycle, 77, 89, 91. He raced in the Arkansas Derby, was 4th in the Derby, closed against Omaha Beach, Improbable, Country House. You can say, well, those are some, good names. Obviously they are, but it was a distant 4th, and he just picked up some tired horses. He passed in the lane. It wasn't like he really did something in that race. This is another horse that I'm not interested in. You tell me if there's any reason I should be.
My notes have him on the bottom of some tries and some supers for a couple reasons. First, as we've seen now, the Arkansas Derby is probably the best of the prep races for this year's Kentucky Derby and Triple Crown Trail. Like you said, Omaha Beach, Improbable, and Country House were the horses that beat him there. The other thing that I like is Ricardo Santana has ridden him for the Asmussen Barn, and Santana rides with no fear. He's going to come with a late charge, damn the torpedoes, go for it, and see what happens. I mean, maybe he picks up 3rd, maybe he picks up 4th. Either way, it's going to light up tickets.
All right, moving to the 12 horse, Another Twist of Fate. This is a very consistent horse, 6 lifetime starts, 3 wins, 2 seconds. Last 5 races been nothing but 1st or 2nd. Has had a little second place itis here the last 2, finishing 2nd to Cutting Humor in the Sunland Derby, 2 back. And then last time out, J.J. Castellano jumped up for the first time on the horse, and the horse went 95 buyer speed figure, and his last 3 have been very consistent, 94, 94, and 95. Finished 2nd to Owen Dale, a horse that we've talked a lot about. So a lot of people are going to give him some attention. Here's what I don't understand, Sig, and they're going to Ortiz in this race, Castellano on another horse in this one. But you look at this horse, and he's got the 12th post position, which I think really compromises him because this is a horse that wants to be forwardly placed. He doesn't need the front end, but he likes to be at or near it. He's going to have to use some horse to get there out of the 12 post. But if I'm looking at Another Twist of Fate at 6-1, and I like him, why do I not like Owen Dale more, who's at 10-1? Why would I bet the horse that finished 2nd to him and has a bad post position at lesser odds compared to Owen Dale, who was the winner and has a more favorable post today and might have his rabbit buddy in the race? I just don't understand the morning line here.
I'm with you. When I saw the morning lines come out, I couldn't believe this horse was 6-1. This has had some talk over the social media, so I think this may be the wise guy's horse coming into this race here on Saturday. But I don't see it. I can't see. He is an improving horse, but he hasn't beat any horses of this, a large number of horses of this quality. I may use him on the bottom a couple of tries and supers. I think he's going to try to wire the field. I think it's the only strategy they can use is to try to get out there and pull maximum security, wire the field. I don't see that happening with the number of closers in this race and the rabbits that we previously spoke about.
Yeah, I agree. I'll probably have him on the bottom end, but, if I'm looking for a win ticket, just on value, we talk about searching in sports betting and getting the right number and everything else. Now, the public can change these odds, and he might not go off less than Owen Dale, but I just can't. If you tell me, okay, I got two horses, I got to bet one of them, I'm betting Owen Dale at 10-1 before I'm betting another Twist of Fate at 6-1. I am. I'm sorry. The last horse. Now this is a horse I talked a lot about leading up into the Kentucky Derby, and once again he gets his trip that he doesn't break out of the gate well, ends up at the back of the pack, and then just tries to bob and weave and get through. It was a bad day to do that, a lot of traffic. But again, that's what I'm going to be looking at in this race. He's going to be sitting most likely out of the 13 post position. He's going to be sitting dead last or next to it. And he's going to have to navigate through the field. Well, he's going to be navigating with two or three other closers in the race as well. Could cause some traffic jams whenever the front end's coming back and the back end's going forward. Just like Bourbon War, this horse is adding blinkers this week. Could fire him up, could him get him a little bit more interested. If you look at the beginning of his career, now granted, it was against lesser competition. He was racing closer to the pace at the beginning of his career. It's just in the last three races that he keeps going further and further back at the start. He's missed the gate a couple times, breaking late out of the gate or stumbling, that has aided in him being back. Maybe, again, the blinkers will have him more focused that when that gate opens that he's popping out of there. But win. Will be flying on the end. I will use him on the tail end of exotics, but I just don't have him. I just don't like him enough to have him in the first and second spot.
All right, Mark. On Derby Day, win was basically the long shot that I liked. I still like him here. If I can get anywhere near 15-1 at the windows come post time, I'm betting him to win. I didn't think he got to run his race in the Derby or the past couple races. I think he's going to get a better setup here, fewer horses in the field, a couple other closers to run with at the back of the pack. I can see him. I mean, like I said, the morning line is anywhere near the post time line. I'm betting him to win.
In the Derby, and I liked it when they went into the Derby, even though he's a lesser jockey, they did go back to the original jockey that rode him throughout his career, taking Ortiz off. But I thought maybe that would get him, a little bit closer to the pack. That was one of the things I was looking at because, as I said, if you go back to earlier in his career, he was racing closer to the action, but that just didn't happen. And again, got out of the gate poorly. If he snaps off the gate and he's closer, I should say, yeah, I could see him making the big run. But I just think there's a couple closers that are a little bit better, but I will not miss the try by not having him in that second or third spot, fourth on the Superfectas as well. So we'll throw some tickets there. SIG, we've covered all of the horses. Now let's wrap it up and put a bow tie around it. Tell me how you see the Preakness. What's your top four horses in the race?
I got top five. Can I give you top five?
Give me the top five. You want to give me top five?
I see improbable winning this race unless there's a huge pace breakdown and the closers gain some spots and improbable makes a run towards the front early. Behind him, I'm seeing War of Will and Win with a closing Bourbon War and a closing Owen Dale. Those four horses behind them can finish in any order. I'd be probably Keem and Probable on top with War of Will, Win, Bourbon War, and Owen Dale. Some smaller tickets with Win on top. and the same 4 horses below.
All right. Well, I can say that for the most part, we've got the same horses that we're looking at. The top 3 horses that I'm looking at are Improbable, looking at Bourbon War, and looking at Owen Dale. I think those 3 horses are going to be the horses that are going to be coming down the stretch. Improbable probably will be in front in deep stretch, and I'll be looking at Owen Dale and Bourbon War closing quickly, and the question will be if they run him down. I will be doing stuff. You know how I like to play trifectas where, I do the pyramid trifectas where I'll put, 3 horses on top or 4 horses on top, and then, I'll put those same horses in the second spot, and then I'll spread it out a little more on the third spot. So I'll do some combinations like that. But my key numbers are going to consist of the 4 horse, the 2 horse, and the 5 horse. And then we'll have some combinations down below. SIG, this was fun doing the Preakness with you. Once again, I want to tell everybody to follow you on Twitter, SIG Las Vegas. Great horse racing stuff. Put stuff out, every day for free. Of course, you know where to find me, Marco in Vegas. I will have my Preakness package up. You can purchase the package. Actually, it's already up. And if you want to get it, the package is $39. For listening to us today, I have a coupon code. It is DQ10. And no, don't get excited, SIG. It's not Dairy Queen for the DQ. It's DQ for the disqualification of the Kentucky Derby. I know you were already figuring out what blizzard you wanted. We're going to go down with some wager bucks and try to get a blizzard. Which one is your favorite? I like the peanut butter, the Reese's peanut butter cup. See, I got to have that.
I'm between the Reese's peanut butter cup and the cookie dough.
Oh, cookie dough, yes. All right, I'll go Reese's peanut butter cup on top. You can have that one in the Exacta box. But DQ10 will save you $10. You can get my Preakness package for $29. Yes, we missed the Derby last year. The Preakness, we nailed it. We bet $300 in the race, exactly $302 if you want to be exact, and we brought back $1,159, which brought us a nice profit for the Preakness and gave us a profit for the 3 races of the Triple Crown. Again, we showed a profit over the 3 races last year. Go back 2 years, obviously, with that $9,000 score in the Derby. We made money that year as well, a ton of money. So we're playing with house money, and if you want to ride along, you can get my actual betting sheet. Exactly how I'm playing the race. All you got to do is read it off your phone or print it out, take it to the window, and you will get to play the race exactly as I am. For SIG Las Vegas, I'm Marco D'Angelo. It's been fun. You'll be here for the Belmont. Maybe instead of having you on a Skype call, we might be able to get you in to the studio. If we, I know you're going to be here having some fun, but, maybe you can carve out an hour to come in and do the Belmont with me live. Kelly would be hosting. I don't know if that's, if that helps push you to one side or the other as far as wanting to come in to do that, but just throwing that out there for you, buddy.
Looking forward to it, Marco. Hopefully we can do it.
All right, good stuff. And that's it for now. Let's cash some tickets come Saturday, guys, and we'll be back. Belmont, 3 weeks. Check it out.